The glass doors of Meridian Tech gleamed under the morning sun as Marcus Chen stood in the lobby, his son's backpack slung over one shoulder and a coffee-stained tie hanging slightly crooked around his neck. He'd overslept again. Jamie had missed the bus again, and now Marcus was 40 minutes late to the quarterly investor meeting where CEO Victoria Sterling would be presenting the company's future. A future that, until 3 months ago, Marcus had helped architect. "Mr. Chen," Victoria's voice cut through the lobby chatter like ice through water. She stood near the elevators, immaculate in a charcoal suit, her expression carved from the same stone as her reputation. "Nice of you to join us." Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck as every head in the lobby turned toward him. "I apologize, Miss Sterling. My son—" "Your son," she interrupted, her eyes flicking to the small dinosaur keychain dangling from the backpack, "is not our shareholders' concern. This is the 3rd time this month." He wanted to explain, wanted to tell her that Jamie's mother had walked out 6 months ago, that 7-year-olds don't understand why mommy doesn't come home anymore, that juggling single parenthood with a 60-hour work week felt like drowning in slow motion. But Victoria had already turned away, her heels clicking against marble as she disappeared into the elevator. That was 4 weeks ago, and Marcus had been invisible to her ever since. No acknowledgement in meetings, no response to emails, just a wall of professional ice that made it clear he was expendable, forgettable, already forgotten. Marcus told himself it didn't matter. He had bigger concerns than earning the approval of a CEO who measured human worth in productivity metrics. Jamie had started having nightmares. The school counselor had used words like abandonment issues and emotional support. So Marcus did what any father would do. He showed up. To every parent-teacher conference, every soccer practice, every 3 a.m. moment when his son woke up crying for a mother who wasn't coming back. The late arrivals continued. So did Victoria's silent disapproval, marked only by the tightening of her jaw whenever Marcus slipped into morning meetings after drop-off. But today was different. Today, Marcus wasn't late. He sat in the company cafeteria, watching Jamie color at the corner table. It was a teacher work day, and his usual sitter had canceled. Bringing his son to work was a risk, but leaving a 7-year-old home alone wasn't an option. Jamie was being good, almost too good, as if he understood that Daddy's job hung by a thread and even the sound of crayons on paper needed to be quiet. That's when Marcus saw her, not Victoria, though he spotted the CEO across the cafeteria, deep in conversation with the CFO. No, Marcus saw the elderly woman struggling with her tray near the condiment station, her hands shaking as she tried to balance a soup bowl, a sandwich, and a water bottle. She wore a visitor's badge. Probably someone's mother, he thought. Here for a lunch date. Without thinking, Marcus stood up. "Hey, buddy, I'll be right back, okay? Stay right here." Jamie nodded, green crayon poised over a T-Rex. Marcus reached the woman just as the tray began to tip. "Here, let me help you with that." Her face flooded with relief. "Oh, thank you, dear. My hands aren't what they used to be. Where are you sitting?" "Over there with my son, the gentleman in the blue shirt." Marcus carried her tray across the cafeteria, smiling as the woman chatted about her son's recent promotion to senior engineer. He set the tray down carefully, made sure she had napkins, and was turning to leave when the son looked up. "Marcus Chen? Man, thank you. This is my mom. She's visiting from Portland." They shook hands. Marcus excused himself and headed back to Jamie, unaware that Victoria Sterling had witnessed the entire interaction from her table by the windows. What he didn't see was the way Victoria's expression shifted, how her eyes followed him as he returned to his son, how she watched Jamie look up with absolute adoration, showing his father the completed dinosaur drawing, how Marcus ruffled his son's hair with a tenderness that seemed almost foreign in the sterile corporate environment. 2 days later, Marcus received an email that made his stomach drop, meeting with Ms. Sterling. 3 p.m. today. HR will be present. This was it, the termination he'd been expecting. Marcus spent his lunch hour updating his resume and wondering how he'd explain to Jamie that Daddy lost his job. At 2:55 p.m., he walked into Victoria's office with his shoulders squared and his dignity intact. Victoria sat behind her massive desk, but there was no HR representative, just another woman, elegant, maybe in her early 60s, with kind eyes that seemed somehow familiar. "Mr. Chen, please sit," Victoria said. Her voice lacked its usual edge. "This is my mother, Helen Sterling." The elderly woman from the cafeteria smiled at him. "Hello again, dear." Marcus felt the room tilt slightly. I didn't realize." "No, you didn't," Victoria said, and for the first time in months he heard something other than disappointment in her voice. "Which is exactly why my mother insisted I speak with you." Helen leaned forward. "Victoria, I raised you better than what I've seen these past months. This young man helped a stranger, an old woman he had no reason to notice, while managing his own responsibilities. He did it without hesitation, without recognition, without any expectation of reward." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned to Marcus. "My mother told me something after our lunch. She said she watched you with your son. She said she saw something I'd apparently become too busy to notice. A good man doing his best under impossible circumstances." Marcus didn't trust himself to speak. "I've spent 3 months viewing you as an inconvenience," Victoria continued. "Someone who couldn't manage their personal life well enough to meet professional standards. I didn't ask why. I didn't consider context. I just judged." "Victoria lost her father when she was 8, Helen said softly. "I was a single mother in corporate America in the 80s. I know what you're facing, young man. I lived it. And I know exactly the kind of judgment my daughter just described because I experienced it daily." Something cracked in Victoria's carefully maintained composure. "I watched my mother get passed over for promotions because she had to leave for school pickups. Watched her work twice as hard for half the recognition. I swore I'd never be like the people who made her life harder." She exhaled slowly. "And yet here I am decades later doing exactly that." The silence in the office felt enormous. "Mr. Chen," Victoria said finally, "I owe you an apology. Several, actually. I've been unfair. Worse than unfair, I've been cruel in my indifference." Marcus found his voice. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I just need flexibility to be there for my son. He's struggling. His mother left, and he's 7, and he doesn't understand why she stopped loving him enough to stay. So yes, sometimes I'm late. Sometimes I have to leave early. Sometimes I bring him here on teacher work days because I don't have other options. But I get my work done. I meet my deadlines. I know," Victoria interrupted. "I pulled your performance reviews before this meeting. Your work is exceptional. Your team loves you. Your clients request you specifically. By every metric that actually matters, you're one of our top performers." She paused. "I was measuring you by the wrong standard. Physical presence instead of actual contribution." Helen reached across and squeezed Marcus's hand. "My daughter called me crying last night. She said seeing you with your son reminded her of watching her own father, how present he was in those last months, how he made every moment count, and she realized she'd been treating you the way she hated others treating me." Victoria stood and walked to the window. "I'm implementing a new flexible work policy, effective immediately. Core hours will be 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for all employees who need it, with the rest of their hours flexible as long as work quality remains high. We're also starting an on-site childcare program for emergencies. Days like today when your son's school is closed and you can't find care. Marcus stared. You're doing this because I saw who you really are, Victoria said, turning back to face him. Not in a meeting or an email, but in a moment when you thought no one was watching. You helped my mother when you had every reason to focus on your own problems. You've been showing up for your son even when it cost you professionally. That's the kind of character this company should celebrate, not penalize. There's more, Helen added gently. Victoria told me about your wife leaving, about your son struggling, and I wanted you to know, it gets better. Not easier perhaps, but better. You're doing everything right. Something in Marcus's chest loosened, a knot of anxiety and shame and exhaustion he'd been carrying for months. Thank you, he managed, both of you. Victoria returned to her desk. I'd also like to discuss a promotion, Director of Client Relations. It comes with a significant raise and the autonomy to set your own schedule. You've earned it 10 times over, and I should have recognized that months ago. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept, Helen said with a warm smile, and say you'll bring that lovely son of yours to the company picnic next month. I'd like to meet him properly. As Marcus left Victoria's office 20 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text from Jamie's sitter.
Sorry about last week. Can I make it up by taking Jamie this Saturday? Give you some time to yourself?
For the first time in months, Marcus felt like he could breathe. The following Monday, Marcus arrived at 9:45 a.m., early enough to grab coffee before the 10 a.m. meeting. Victoria was in the lobby, and when she saw him, she smiled. An actual smile. Good morning, Mr. Chen. How's Jamie? Better, thank you. He's excited about the picnic. Good. My mother hasn't stopped talking about meeting him. As they walked to the elevator together, Victoria said quietly, I'm sorry it took seeing you with my mother for me to see you clearly. That shouldn't have been necessary. We all have blind spots, Marcus replied. What matters is that you recognized yours and changed. The elevator doors opened. As they stepped inside, Victoria added, You know, my mother said something else. She said the measure of a company isn't its profits, it's whether good people want to stay. I'm hoping you'll stay, Marcus. We need more people like you. I'm not going anywhere, he said. And he meant it. Because sometimes redemption comes from unexpected places. Sometimes the people who seem hardest turn out to have the softest hearts once their eyes are opened. And sometimes a simple act of kindness, helping an elderly woman carry her lunch, becomes the catalyst for change that ripples far beyond that single moment. 3 months later, the on-site childcare program was servicing 15 families. The flexible work policy had reduced turnover by 30%. And Marcus Chen, Director of Client Relations, sat in Victoria Sterling's Monday morning strategy meeting, contributing ideas while knowing that if Jamie's school called with an emergency, he could leave without judgment. But the biggest change wasn't policy or procedure, it was perspective. Victoria had learned to see her employees as whole people, parents and caregivers, humans with lives that didn't stop at the office door. And Marcus had learned that sometimes the people who seem most distant are simply lost in their own blind spots, waiting for someone to help them see clearly. Jamie's dinosaur drawing hung framed on the wall of Marcus's new office, and every time he looked at it, he remembered that being a good father and a good employee weren't opposing forces. In the right environment, with the right people, they could coexist beautifully. The glass doors of Meridian Tech still gleamed under the morning sun, but now when Marcus walked through them, sometimes at 9 a.m., sometimes at 10, He walked through them seen, valued, and most importantly understood.